Hey, what's up YouTube? Today's class is going to be a Yoga for Men's class. It's going to be part of a series, so I'll introduce you to some poses and some ideas, and then each week we'll build on them, progress them on, make them more challenging, make them more difficult. So Yoga for Men doesn't mean that women can't practice a class, and similarly it doesn't mean men can't practice my other classes. It just means that this class will have a particular style. The style is going to be less focused on sort of deep flexibility and more focused on core stability and range of movement. So this is a new channel. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and if you want to see certain content, let me know in the comments. Cool, we'll get started. I'm going to bring the hands together, circling them around, just warming up the wrists. I pincer my elbows together, lift them up a little bit. It's just going to start mobilizing the shoulders a little as well. And I'm lengthening my breath out, so just starting to find the breath that I'm using in the class. Nice long inhales, exhales through the nose if you can. Changing direction, coming around the other way as well. And then any other movements, we're just preparing the wrists for coming down to the mat. Then I'm going to find an all fours position, so hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. I'll bring my right hand up to the side of the head, inhale. And as I exhale, I'll bring the right elbow across to that left arm. Inhale to lift the right elbow up. Nice, slow, controlled movement. Exhale to close. So as I lift, just trying to get that elbow up to the top of my range of movement. And then releasing off, we'll change sides. Inhaling, exhaling, closing, left elbow to right arm. Inhale to lift. Exhale to close. Last one. And then releasing the hands down, just walk them forwards a little bit, pull the elbows in, lower yourself down to the mat, and position your hands so they're in a comfortable position, as close to underneath the shoulders as you can get. Just to start with, I'm going to think about drawing my shoulder blades together, pincering my elbows in by my side, and then I'm going to draw my belly in and just bring my chest forwards a little bit. Exhaling to release. Inhaling to draw the belly in, switch on the legs. So I squeeze my bum, squeeze my glutes, elbows pincering in, shoulders drawing back and down. You just come up to where you feel comfortable. If you're used to the movement, you might try and extend the arms a little bit more. Nice active legs, belly drawing in. You want to feel like your belly's lifting up off the floor here. Active legs. You can work it with the breath, or you can add these pauses at the top. Just get comfortable, drawing the shoulder blades back and down, drawing the belly in, squeezing the glutes. And then releasing down. Press the hips back. We'll find all fours one more time. So hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, and then from here we're going to work some protraction of the shoulders, the shoulder blades. So I'm just going to push the floor away as I exhale, and then inhale to soften. Exhale, extend out of the shoulders, into the hands. Again, it's quite slow and controlled. I'm really trying to feel it, especially at the top of the movement. And then we're going to try and lift the knees and do exactly the same thing again. So a little pause at the top of the movement. Exhale. Inhaling. And then releasing the knees down. I'm just going to walk my hands a little further forward and then lift up, lift up, find a high plank rather. So I'm going to look for that protraction out of the shoulder blades that I had in the last pose as well. So that pushing, that feeling of pushing into the hands here. If you're used to your plank, you can lean into it a little to make it more challenging. If it's already pretty challenging, or it's a little too hard, you could always drop the knees here, draw the belly in, push the floor away. Take 5 breaths. Just try and really feel that extension out of the shoulders. Keep the belly drawing in, keep the ribs drawing in. Lean into it if you want to. And then dropping the knees, pressing those hips back and lifting for downward dog. So if you're new to downward dog or you find it challenging, I'd advise you just to bend your knees. So keep those knees nice and soft. Spread the fingers, push out of the shoulders, and soften the neck and the head. So you're trying to feel the hips pressing backwards here. And it's very common to see downward dogs with the weight shifting forward, but we want to get those hips pressing backwards. We want to get the feeling of the hips moving backwards, lifting, belly drawing in, neck and head nice and soft, and lots of extension out of the shoulders. Just lengthening the breath out. If you did want to extend the legs, you can of course bring those heels down, but no pressure to. Just get those hips moving backwards. And then gazing forward, I'm going to step my right foot forward, nice big step, and find a long runner's lunge here. Legs are active, they're strong, supported. Left hand's going to ground, right hand can either work on the sacrum or it can lift up, whichever one works for you. Try and think about shoulder drawing back, chest lifting, find some rotation. If you're working with the hand on the sacrum, you can mobilize that shoulder. And then bringing the hand back down, dropping the knee, bringing the hands inside, bring the heel a little further forward and a little more central. And then just press your hips forward and back and connect this with the breath. So I have a soft right knee here. My hands just are on my fingertips. It could be flat hands, you could be working with blocks if you had some, if you want to pause the video. And as I get more comfortable with this, I'm going to work on pointing, flexing, maybe finding the leg a little straighter. Just trying to mobilize this hamstring, this right hamstring. Press my hips back, walk my hands a little further forward. And then bringing the hands back inside. Bring the heel back a little closer, fingertips down, lift the back knee, and step the left foot forwards. Keep the legs at hip distance and just take the elbows here. Bend the knees as much as you need to start to feel like the tummy's sinking down into the thighs. So the upper body's sinking into the lower body here. You might sway side to side or rock gently or anything that gets you feeling comfortable here. Like I say, don't feel like there's any limit on how much you can bend your knees. Try and look for this softness to start with between the upper body and the lower body. And then fingertips coming down, inhale, lift the chest. And as you exhale, right foot stepping back, this time for your long runner's lunge. Get those legs feeling strong, right hand's gonna stay down on the floor, left arm's either gonna lift, or you work on the sacrum. Roll the top shoulder back. Nice, strong legs. And then bringing hand down, knee down, hands coming to the inside, heel coming more central, further forwards, and just rock those hips forward and back here. Connect it with the breath. And just like you did on the other side, if you want to point, flex, keep those hips pressing back, straighten the leg out a little bit. The important thing here is to think about mobilizing. So if the hamstring's very tight, don't push into it too much. Try and get it to soften. I'm going to press my hips back, draw my belly in, walk the hands a little further forward, and then bringing the hands back inside, heel coming back a little closer, hands coming down on the fingertips. This time I'm going to step right leg forward and the feet together, and I'm going to squeeze the inner thighs together as I inhale, sit into chair pose here. So I want to think about belly drawing in, ribs drawing in, so I'm not arching my back here. We're not arching it too much, and then I'm just going to sit into the pose, extend out of my shoulders. We'll sink into it a little lower, so push the bum back, extend the arms forward this time. Again, keep squeezing the inner thighs together for stability. Inhaling back into regular chair, and as you exhale this time, bring the left elbow to the outside edge of your right knee. Bring the hands into the middle of the chest. If you're balanced, you can try and lift the gaze, work that top shoulder so it lifts a little more. And inhale back into chair. As you exhale, right elbow comes to the outside of the left knee. Again, hands into the middle of the chest, top shoulder lifting. And then inhaling chair, and then exhaling. Whew, release off. Just walk the legs out a little bit, give them a little bit of a shake if you're feeling it like I am. And then we're going to bring the weight into the left foot. So I'm just finding the weight stacking across to this left hand side, slightly leaning to the left. And then from here, I'm going to slowly lift the right leg up. I'm just going to reposition myself a little further back actually. From here, I can lift the arms up. So I've got my foot on my right foot flexed. I'm trying to draw the knee in, squeezing it up. If you want to have a try at straightening the leg, you could. From here, we're going to bring the hands down. Left arm coming across to the outside edge of that right knee. Thumb facing back, and just open that right shoulder. And if you want to open the gaze to the side as well, you feel imbalanced, you can. And then coming back into the middle, hands come into the middle of the chest again. Inhale, flex the foot in nice and tight, draw the knee in. Then as you exhale, bring that hip back into extension and dip your chest a little bit. We're just going to work with this range of movement. So as you inhale, lift, and as you exhale, extend back. And it's a counterbalance. So as the chest comes forward, as it lowers down, the back leg's going to get lighter. Just working with your breath, exploring that range of movement if you feel balanced. If not, keep the range of movement smaller. It's going to work that left hamstring as well here. On this next one, I'm going to step my right leg back and release the hands and find a lunge with the hands lifting up here. So I'm going to draw my belly in, back leg's nice and strong. Extend out of those shoulders and then soften them a little bit. And then we're going to add some movement. So as I inhale, I'm going to bend my right knee. Come as low as I'm comfortable with, exhaling to lift. Only work with a range of movement that you're comfortable. Last one. And then dropping the back knee down. And I'm just making my lunge a little bit shorter, so my front leg's coming a little closer. I'm going to bring my right elbow to the outside edge of the knee, so I'm coming into that twisted position where the top shoulder's lifting. I'm going to gaze at the floor if I want to have a try at lifting my back knee here to help the balance. You could always keep that back knee down. Just work the twist. And then from here, gazing at the floor, I'm going to step my right leg to meet the left leg and find that twisted chair. So inner thighs squeeze together, top shoulder lifts, gaze lifts if you're balanced. And then inhaling, regular chair, and exhaling, releasing it off. Same on the other side. So weight comes into the right foot. Take your time with this setup, finding that weight stacking across. When you're ready, left leg lifting, flexing that left foot. Lift the arms. If you want to have a try at straightening the leg, pointing the toe, squeezing. I'm going to keep my knee soft for this one, and then bringing the arms down. Right arm comes to the outside edge of that left leg, thumb facing back. Left arm starting to move backwards. Gaze can open if you're feeling balanced. Coming back into the middle, hands coming into the middle of the chest. Inhale, lift that knee up, flex the foot. And as you exhale, bring that left leg back. So the hips coming into extension. Inhale. Just connect it with your breath. Find that counterbalance. Progress the range of movement as you get more comfortable. On this one, bringing the left leg back, finding your lunge, releasing the hands. So I'm getting nice and long, pushing my back heel back so the legs are active, feeling strong. Lifting the arms, draw the belly in. And then I'm adding that range of movement. So find a comfortable range of movement for you. Don't push it so it doesn't feel good. I'm going to inhale and then exhale. You could always reverse the breath here. Do it the other way around if you wanted. And then dropping that back knee down. Again, I bring my front leg a little closer, find my twist, hands into the middle of the chest. Want to have a try at lifting that back knee, gazing at the floor, and work into your twist. Top shoulder lifting, maybe gaze lifting if you're feeling balanced. And then releasing the gaze down, stepping back leg to meet the front leg here. So I squeeze into that center line, feet nice and close. Twist the chair on the right hand side. And then inhaling, regular chair. And as you exhale, fold forwards here. Just release the neck and the head, soften down into it. I'm going to take my elbows one more time. And just work on finding that connection, upper body to the legs, sinking into it, lengthening the breath out, and then releasing, hands on the fingertips. I'm going to widen my feet out, let the toes face out to the sides, and sit my bum back here for a low squat for Malasana. So if your heels are lifted here, then the pose or the series that we're going to do is going to be a little different. It's going to be more about finding your balance. If they're down, try to sit your heels back, lift your chest. If they're up, just try and get that weight moving backwards here. So this is a great one for opening the ankles so they eventually can come down to the floor. Wherever you're working, try to lift the chest, sit the weight back. You can use the elbows on the insides of the legs to open those hips a little. And then I'm going to bring my left hand down to the floor. I'll make a solid connection between my left arm and left leg, and either lifting that right arm or again working on the sacrum, whichever one feels best. or a combination of the two. Just trying to get that top shoulder lifting. And then releasing off, bringing my right hand down. If those heels are lifted, this will be more tricky. Working into the other side. And then releasing off. I'm going to bring my hands down. We're going to do the setup for crow pose. So fingers nice and spread, shoulder distance apart, and I'm just going to transfer weight into the hands, lean my chest forward, gaze forward. As the weight comes into the hands, if I want to have a try at lifting one of the toes or both of the toes, I can. And then I'll let the weight come back, drop the feet back down. And I'm just going to work it with momentum to start with. So I'm leaning into it, seeing if I can find that tipping point. Find that point where the feet get nice and light. If this is easy, you can work into it a little bit. So think about finding that tipping point and then squeeze those feet together, squeeze the hips together so you lift a little higher. And if that's easy, you can work the full pose, full crow pose, full bakasana. So for that one, the knees are going to be on the backs of the arms instead. Everything else stays pretty much the same, so you're still finding that tipping point. It's just the knees are on the backs of the arms. If you're new to the pose, just work it with the momentum. If the feet don't lift, no worries. You're just building like an understanding of the mechanics of the pose. And then from here, I'm gonna lean into it a little bit, and you can either step or hop back into a low plank. And then lowering down all the way to the mat, bringing the arms by the side. And releasing the neck and the head, so you're gazing down. We're going to work into the core again here. So work into it slowly. Think about finding a nice strong core, so the belly drawing in strongly to protect that lower back. As you inhale, just lift the torso up, belly draws in, shoulder blades pull back and together. And as you exhale, you can soften. Inhale, switching on. Exhaling to soften. I'm going to bring my legs in. So I point my toes, squeeze my inner thighs together, squeeze my bum. And if you're feeling strong here, just add pauses at the top. So continue to breathe while you're holding the pose at the top of the movement. If it's a tough one, just work it with that range. Inhaling to lift, exhaling to lower down. Releasing, I'm going to do it one more time. This time I'm going to add some pulses at the top of the movement, so no pressure to add these in. I'm going to squeeze my bum, squeeze my inner thighs together, point my toes. As I inhale, I'm just going to try and draw my shoulder blades back a little closer. So I'm getting an extra lift. And then releasing. Hands underneath shoulders, pressing back. And we'll just take a breath before we lift up and find high plank. So I'm coming into a high plank, but this time I'm going to spread my feet so they're a little wider. I'm going to push the floor away, lean into the pose a little. Just finding that feeling of protracting, so pushing the floor away. It's going to feel like it's rounding your upper back a little, which is absolutely fine. Just work on that extension. Push, 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 ribs and belly drawing in. And then we'll add some single arms. So if you're feeling strong, I'm going to lift my right arm and try and keep my hips fairly stable as I'm doing it. So I inhale, and then I change sides. And just get a feel for it. Trying to keep those hips still as I can. And then dropping those knees down. Take a breath or two, and then when you're ready, lifting up for downward dog. And again, get those hips pressing back. Option to keep the knees soft. Don't feel you have to extend the legs unless you want to. And make sure you're extending out of the shoulders. So fingers spread, push the floor away. And we'll do our single arms in our downward dog as well. So I'm gonna bring my right arm to the left leg just gently, and then I'm gonna bring my right hand back down. Extending out of the right shoulder, bringing the left hand to the right leg. And this is really just working that shoulder stabilization again. Nice and controlled, pressing those hips back, extending out of the shoulder, changing hands, making sure you're still breathing. Let's do two more. And then hands coming down. I'm going to step my right foot forwards and keeping the right knee to bent to start with. I just bring my hands down onto the fingertips, or if you have those blocks handy, you could always be on blocks here. I'm going to think about the back foot turning a little bit so my hips can square off to the short side of the mat here. You can have that back foot any angle you want. And from here, I'm just going to try and soften into this front leg. So finding just like the forward fold that we were doing earlier, just see if you can release the upper body into that leg and soften down into it. Release the neck and the head, take some breaths. If you're comfortable here, you can work on trying to extend this front leg. Think about drawing the hip back into the hip socket as it extends. Push that back foot into the mat strongly. Find the pose a little stronger, but only if the hamstring feels good. Otherwise, keep that softness in the knee. You can still think about the hip drawing into the hip socket and that front leg, back leg staying active. And then releasing off the pose. We're going to step left leg forwards, keep the feet at hip distance, take the elbows. Take a few breaths. And then fingertips coming back down, lift the chest a little, right foot stepping back. Find that same pose on the other side. So to start with, I keep my left knee soft, try and melt down into that leg. And as I get more comfortable, that left hip's drawing back into the hip socket, back foot's pushing the floor away. And left leg can start to work a little straighter if you want. And then releasing the pose, lifting the chest. We'll keep the fingers, or keep the hands on fingertips to start with, or flat hands rather, as I step back. And let's drop the knees just to set up the next pose. So we're going to be finding a low plank to start with, and then we'll build it into a pose called dolphin. So I'm going to work with my hands together for this. Sometimes we have the hands split, the forearms down on the mat. For this one, I'm just going to use the hands together and really work some of the mechanics of the pose, which are important and often sort of get lost when the hands are split. So I'm going to bring my hands together. To start with, I'll just find a low plank here. So I'm going to lift up. I'm going to make sure my bum's not sticking in the air. I'm going to draw my belly in, draw my ribs in, and then I'm going to extend out of my shoulders here. So I'm going to really push into the forearms. Try and extend out of those shoulders as much as you can. Press the body back. And then releasing the pose, so dropping the knees down. And just press the hips back, release the arms, take a couple of breaths. You can sit the bum back into the heels if it's comfortable, release down, or anything, any sort of pose that you can. Just find that breath again, let the body soften a little before we come back into it and progressing it on, finding our dolphin pose this time. So hands together, I'm lifting my hips this time, the legs are coming up, so it's like a downward dog, but the forearms are down, and I'm going to try and walk my legs a little closer. So this is going to bring the hips more over the shoulders and more weight forward, so the pose is going to get more challenging. If you've got tight hamstrings, you'll probably have to have a bend in the knees here. If you want to work the legs straighter, you can try and come up onto the tiptoes, walk the legs in as much as you can, and then push out of those shoulders, just like we were doing with our plank. So try and push the hips back by extending out of the shoulders, but keep the weight forward by working those legs closer as you get more comfortable. Keep pushing the floor away, keep extending out of those shoulders. And then releasing off the pose. I'm dropping my knees down. I'm going to walk the hands a little further forward, press my bum back, and draw my ribs and my belly in here. So we'll open out the shoulders in between this dolphin and the one we're going to do next. So I'm thinking about keeping ribs and belly drawing in, bringing the head down, and then I'm going to ground into my hands, ground into, like down into my armpits to really open out my shoulders. Just lengthening that breath out and then coming back into your dolphin setup. So this last one, there's going to be an option to lift alternate legs. We'll try and hold it for about 5 breaths on either side. If the last dolphin was hard, just stick with that. Just work on trying to get those hips coming forward and then find that extension out of your shoulders. So I'm lifting up for my dolphin, walking my feet closer, pressing my hips back by extending out of those shoulders, but trying to keep them leaning in at the same time. From here, I'm going to lift my right leg. I've got my right leg very active, so I'm pointing my toe, squeezing that right leg. Try to keep pushing out of the shoulders. And bringing the right leg down, changing sides. Left leg lifting. Remember, you can just be working your regular dolphin. And bringing the left leg down, knees down, press those hips back. This time just coming into a child's pose, so trying to sink the hips back, don't worry about opening out the shoulders. Just release the neck and the head down. Hands can be in front, by the sides, wherever you're comfortable. Take some nice deep breaths. And then lifting back up. And we're going to find plank. So on this plank, I'm going to keep my feet wide. So similarly to the one we did last time, the feet will be split about hip distance apart. I'm going to lean into the pose a little, and then we're going to find some rotations. So I'm going to think about the feet coming down to the mat, and then this right shoulder lifting. And you can lift the arm straight away if you want, or you can keep this hand on the hip, keep the gaze low as you get comfortable with this. Think about pressing those hips up, and then we'll change across to the other side. So feet split. Hips press up, arm can extend up, gaze can lift if you're balanced. Back to that first side. Press those hips up. Coming back to the second side. And then coming back into high planks. So this time I'm going to try and take my feet together and see if I can work onto just the one foot. If you need to keep both feet down, no problem. You work it how you want to work it. So So I'm going to roll onto this left side. Feet are stacked this time, hips press up. If I'm feeling balanced, the gaze lifts. Hips press up, arm can extend. Changing sides. Take your time with it, get your balance, press those hips up. Going back down, back to the first side. Press those hips up. Coming across to the second side. And coming back. This time as we roll across, I'm going to let my right foot come back to the floor. I'm just going to gently lower myself down to the mat and find our next pose. So as I lengthen my breath out, get my breath back. So I'm a little off my mat, I'll just shuffle back onto it. I'm going to think about keeping this left leg bent, so it's at a right angle, hip coming out to the side, and I'll lengthen the right leg back so it's coming back towards the back of the mat, bending that knee as well. Then I'm going to just walk my hands around, so trying to square off the chest to the front of the mat. Lengthening it out. It's a great one for just releasing all of those back muscles, the lower back. Soften the elbows a little bit if you're not feeling much. I like it just for a nice soft release. And then I'm going to spin round, work the other side. So I'll bring my legs over and back. This time the right leg is furthest forward. I've got that right knee bent. My left leg is coming back down the back of the mat. Walk my hands around, so squaring off shoulders and chest if you can. And then releasing, bringing those legs back forward, and we'll find, just very quickly, we'll work the mechanics of the forward fold one more time. So I'm going to think about my pelvis coming forwards here. So when we were working at standing, I was really trying to sink into those thighs. As I'm working at seated, I'm just going to try and make sure that my pelvis is starting to tilt forwards. If you extend your legs and you find you're sloping backwards, you're going to need to either soften the knees or sit your bum up on something. Keep the chest lifted, take a nice big inhalation, really try and lift up, and then exhale, just soften those shoulders. If you've got open hamstrings, you can always work the legs straighter, try to think about active legs pushing away, keep the belly drawing in. Wherever you're working, think about that pelvis tilting forwards as much as you can. And then lifting up, extending, lowering yourself back, nice and slow. We're coming down onto the mat and we're going to work some hollow bodies to start with. So the setup for this is nice, strong, active legs. I'm going to squeeze my bum, squeeze my inner thighs together. I'm going to tuck my tailbone under, so I'm going to try and flatten my lower back to the mat by drawing my belly in and flattening out the pelvis, or pulling the pelvis so the back flattens out. I'm going to lift my upper chest, my shoulders a little bit, squeeze the inner thighs together, squeeze the bum, point the toes. Arms are just going to be at the side to start with, and I tuck my chin to my chest. Lengthen that breath out. And then releasing off, pulling the knees in, picking up the breaths. This time we're going to move from our hollow body into a soft boat pose, so a soft Navasana. So I'm going to find hollow body to start with. Nice active legs, inner thighs squeezing together, and then working with the breath. As you inhale or exhale, lift the chest, and then control that lowering down. So my belly's really drawing in as I lower down to keep that control. I'm tucking my tailbone. One last one. And then lowering back, drawing the knees in. And we're coming back to our hollow body hold. If you found hollow body hold comfortable, the last one, then we'll work the arms into extension. If you didn't, just keep the arms by the side and try and get that hold feeling solid. Try and flatten that back so it's not arching as much as you can. Really try and draw it back, the pelvis in, so the lower back is flat. So I squeeze my bums, point my toes, squeeze my inner thighs together, hands by the side to start with, chin tucked, and then the arms can come over the top of the head. And knees drawing in. Take a couple of breaths. We come back to our hollow body hold, to our boat pose. So when you're ready, finding that hollow body hold, this time arms just by the side, work with your breath, lift the chest and then control that lowering down. And then pulling those knees in, take a couple of breaths. We'll work one more optional progression for your hollow body holds. We'll add some movement. Only add it if the last one felt good, you felt comfortable in it. Otherwise, just work whichever hollow body hold you want to be working instead. Either arms by the side or above the head. So I find my hollow body hold to start. Squeeze the bum, point the toes, tuck the chin. I'm going to extend my arms over the top of the head, and then I'm going to add some very small movement here, a little rock. And then drawing those knees in. Take a couple of breaths. Now we come into the last set, the last hollow body to boat pose. So find your hollow body, just arms by the side, and then work with your breath. Chest lifting. And then draw those knees in, give yourself a hug. I'm going to drop my knees across to the right hand side, turn my torso across to the left hand side. Lengthen that breath, let the body relax. If you wanted to extend left leg over the right leg here, you can. And then changing across to the other side. Either knees together, extending that top leg over the bottom leg. Just lengthening the breath. And that's where we'll leave it today. So if you want to finish on any other poses, or you just want to lie down, take a Shavasana, relax, Just let the breath lengthen, let the body release, take a few minutes. And yeah, if you like the video, hit the like button. You want to see more, hit the subscribe, let me know what you want to see. Thanks.